Hey guys, the Airsoft Tech here. Today we're going to be taking a look at a JG G36 build. When I first got into airsoft teching, I bought a JG G36, and that was my very first, well, really my very first upgrade gun that I played around with a lot and upgraded and toyed around with. So I kind of have a soft spot for the JG G36. I think it's probably one of the better guns to learn how to upgrade. It's easy to take apart, it's easy to work with, the externals are really easy to work on, and the internals are version 3 and just very straightforward. So this JG G36 right here, this is the longer LMG kind of rifle version. I built it to do a high rate of fire, 11.1 volt kind of build. It has been worked on like a year ago by me, so this second time around working on it has been more of a touch-up and finalizing things, putting in a MOSFET and getting it 11.1 volt LiPo safe and that kind of thing. So let's check it out. I always find it very entertaining to work on larger guns because they're so big on my desk here. This one, JG G36, actually barely will fit on my desk completely put together and put on the desk. So I always found it very entertaining. I've always worked on smaller guns and it's fun to work on larger ones. So since this thing barely fits on my desk, it doesn't fit completely in the frame. So unfortunately this is the best we're going to get. Externally this thing is almost 100% stock. The only thing externally that is not stock is this mag well here. I did have to replace it for reasons that I'll go into a little bit deeper later, but long story short, it basically has to do with the hop-up unit. So let's break it down and take a look at the inside. One of the first things that we noticed as we're taking down the gun is the MOSFET. This is a newly installed MOSFET. This is a Sigma FET, which is a 3813 based MOSFET. It's got some really nice wire to it. It's very simple. It comes with plenty of wire to wire down through your gearbox and motor. It's really basic MOSFET. It's pretty cheap and it does the job. So no bells and whistles, except it does the job of protecting your trigger contacts, which is what a MOSFET is supposed to do, really. So obviously we're wired Deans here. I put a heat shrink wrap here just to kind of give it a clean, streamlined look. And yeah, let's go down the gun further. So as we take down this gun further, we get down to the hop-up unit in the magwell area. So the thing I had to do with this gun is, one of the flaws with the JG G36 is that the hop-up units on them are notoriously extremely fragile. And so literally just by basic use, the hop-up unit can fracture, making the whole thing really useless. You'll get misfeeds, you'll get jams, you'll get air jams where you get multiple BBs locked up in there in the hop-up unit, and then as you continue to shoot, they'll just jam up and then the air inside your gearbox has nowhere to go. So you have a lot of problems like that with that stock hop-up unit. So this G36 here is mine. This is the one in the video. This is the one the video is about here, the upgraded one. This JG G36, I was able to buy a S&T hop-up unit because mine fractured as well. I was able to buy, sorry, not S&T, SRC metal G36 hop-up unit. They're very different, as you can see. They both have the same rotary wheel, but they have different ways the BBs feed up. So recently, as I've been upgrading this G36, this hop-up unit fractured. I thought, you know what, I'll just go to e-bike and I'll buy one of these SRC hop-up units that work really well. They're solid, they're durable, they're never gonna break, whatever. They're on spec. Well, I get to that website and I find out that this SRC hop-up unit's out of stock, and it's been out of stock for a very, very long time. So you would think maybe I could just buy a Lonex hop-up unit on Brill Armory, but the problem with that is that the mag wells are different. And so the mag wells that are accepted by these hop units are different. This is an old style. This is the first generation style of this gun. And so the mag well that came with both of these guns is this one. The new mag wells are these right here. Is this one right here. And so I couldn't find a hop-up unit that would accept the old style mag well in the United States. I just couldn't find one anywhere. And so I found one in the Czech Republic, I found one on a Hong Kong website, but I needed this hop-up unit kind of quickly, and I didn't really want to spend a ton of money on international shipping, of which sometimes is unreliable, going through customs and all. So I had to track down a G36 magwell, which is also very hard to do. Just a regular G36 magwell that accepted G36 mags, not M4 mags, but G36 mags, which is very hard to do. So now that I have this magwell, I could buy this Lonex hop-up chamber. So now they fit together just fine. So My G36 obviously is this old style hop-up unit, which is fine, it works well. Honestly, both of them work well. But the fact that it's extremely hard to find the hop-up unit that would fit with the old magwell, and then if you go the new hop-up unit route, you got to find an old, newer magwell. It was a big headache, but I finally got it sorted. All right, so moving on to the actual upgrades of this gun. So we have the Lonex hop-up chamber here, like I said before. I really like Lonex. Lonex works really well for their hop-up chambers. They're very on spec, they're solid, they're very durable, they're not gonna break, come with everything you need. They're very precise hop-up units, so I like them a lot. So this is a Lonex hop-up chamber. Inside you have a G&G green bucking. I really like that bucking. It works extraordinarily well. I hate having to buy them off of stores like eBike and Airsoft GI, just simply because the shipping takes a little longer than places like Clandestine Airsoft and Brill Armory. But oh well, this one works fantastically, so I kept it. Inside you have an R-hop. I just think most guns will benefit from R-hop, so I go ahead and do it. R-hop, like I said, the G&G green bucking, Lonex hop-up chamber, really great combination. And with this new magwell, the gun feeds very, very well and gets a fantastic air seal. And you can see all my wire routing here. It's very important in this gun to have clean wire routing, because if you don't, what ends up happening is you obstruct your hop-up unit, it's hard to turn the wheel, and then when you shut this magwell in there, sometimes you pinch off wires, which creates resistance, which sometimes you might actually cut the wire. I've done that a couple times actually. So make sure you have a clear pathway for your wires, make sure they're not super thick with all their insulation that prevents them from actually going through. So just get you a good wire, get you a good MOSFET, and route it properly. So one of the reasons I really like G36 is that they're super simple to take down. They don't have a lot of problems with gearbox alignment in the lower receiver like M4s do. I've experienced it like a couple times with G36s and aftermarket gearbox shells, but it's usually fitting the really, really weird ones like the Ares gearbox shell and their lower receiver, and then trying to put a Lonex one in there. That's usually when it gets a little funky. But the JG, Echo 1, SRC, kind of G36 series, all of them fit very fine. Same thing with Classic Army. All of those G36s fit very fine with aftermarket gearbox shells. But I've kept the standard JG version 3 gearbox shell. Version 3s are very strong. If this were a version 2 gearbox shell, I probably would have went ahead and replaced it, because JG version 2s are kind of on the weaker side. But good thing it's a version 3. I'm not going to replace it. It works very well. So here you can see my MOSFET wire routing here. It's pretty clean. I have all my exposed areas heat shrink. Obviously you have your little tabs there for your selector bar. One of the things I really like about the Sigma FET is that it does come with this little zip tie, which I've never thought of doing for MOSFETs, but it lets me keep all my wires pretty straight and tangle free. So yeah, let's break it down even further. All right, here's our gearbox shell. So like I said, I've worked on this gun twice before. This is my second time. The first time I did a majority of the gearbox components here. So the first time I installed SHS 13:1 gears. I installed a Lonex A2 motor. This is a very long time ago. Back when Lonex A2 motors, they were kind of the standard for motors for upgrade builds. Lonex A2, not really Lonex A3. Lonex A1 was seen as kind of a meh thing as well. Everybody almost went for the Lonex A2 in terms of a speed torquey motor. Now it's more or less ZCI, SHS, ASG kind of motors once again, and Ty-Enleys and up there too. I've not seen too many people using Lonex A2s anymore, but this was back when Lonex A2s were pretty good, before they had the brush problem that their brushes would break down super easily and destroy the commutator on the arm. But this Lonex A2 is a solid A2, works very well for what it is. Like I said, SHS 13:1 gears, these are their black edition. They used to make silver ones, and then they switched over to black, so these are the black ones. This is an SHS steel tooth piston with a SHS piston head in there. I believe this is a ZCI cylinder. I just wanted to get a black look to it. The cylinder that came in this G36 was actually one that was under voluming it. It had the opening somewhere about right here, like on the regular G36 ones. So I went ahead and got an upgrade, higher volume cylinder, and then another in a cylinder head as well. You know, I probably had a bad or a less than optimal thought process when it came down to upgrade cylinder heads. honestly, you really don't need to upgrade your cylinder head. There are very few times when you absolutely need to, and that's usually in the extremely high rate of fire or extremely high FPS builds, where your cylinder head nozzle in here will sometimes move around, shake side to side, and unseat itself within the plastic cylinder head in high rate of fire and high FPS builds. So, did I need to do this? Probably not, but this was done a long time ago. This is kind of when I was in that thing of just replacing a lot of parts, and that did not need replaced, but oh well. It's there now, and it's not doing any harm. So, that's that, and this is an SHS air seal nozzle. It's got a double O-ring setup in it. A lot of people argue that you don't need 2 O-rings. I kind of agree, but whatever, they're in there. And so yeah, and this is an SHS version 3 spring guide with the ball bearings on it, and this is SP110 spring, I believe. So yeah, that's the internals. Stock tappet plate, I do have a tappet delayer chip on here. SHS 7mm steel bushings that I've grinded down. You tend to have to do this on the JG gearbox shell. Their bushings sit high, which makes it very difficult to shim. And so what I did is I stuck these in here, I JB welded them down, and I gotta get this shim, hold on. There we go. I stuck these bushings in here, and then I took a grinder attachment for my Dremel and I ground them down to where they were nearly flush with the gearbox shell, and that made shimming a breeze. So yeah, that's the inside of this gun. It shoots about 35 rounds a second and about 360 FPS with a .25. There it is, the finished JG G36 build. So you guys saw the chrono. It's shooting about 380 to 390 FPS. It's a hair bit more inconsistent than what I would prefer, but it might be just a very simple air seal nozzle to hop-up unit thing. I might need to go into the hop-up unit, muck around a little bit in there, and just seal it up a little bit tighter. It's a simple fix if so. In addition, you saw that it's a little more inconsistent on full auto than what I would prefer. I have a couple theories about this. I think my chrono might be a little bit messed up there. But if it's not that, it could be a couple things with tappet plate timing. It did not, to me, sound like premature engagement. After I got done chronoing, I dry fired it on a couple cycles for long cycles on full auto to make sure that I wasn't hearing any premature engagement. And then I ran a couple rounds through it, or several, dozen rounds through it, to make sure that there was also no premature engagement, that classic grinding sound that you can hear. It is interesting to note that premature engagement is slightly more likely going to happen when you're actually chambering BBs and shooting them downrange than if you weren't. So if you're just dry firing your gun, there's no resistance for that piston to hit up against. When you are firing your gun with rounds in it, what's happening is that piston has to push up against that BB and push it all the way down the barrel, and that offers just the slightest bit resistance up against that piston to create and give it a more chance of premature engagement on that piston and sector gear. Now, whether or not that's actually completely something that is likely to happen just because you chamber BBs versus dry firing, I don't really know. I've heard about a couple techs talking about that thing as a concept. I've always thought it's possible. I've heard it a couple times, but again, it's one of those things that is kind of up for debate, I guess you could say. I've not heard it talked about for a while, but it was there back for a while and a couple years ago. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed producing it. I enjoyed working on this JG G36. I think G36s are criminally underused and underrepresented in the tech market. They're just fantastic little guns. This is one of the bigger ones, obviously. But version 3 gearbox is beefy. The whole functionality of the G36 internally, the external and internal meshing works really well. Hop unit's really solid. It doesn't mess around a whole lot. Barrel super simple. You can get the short G36, the mid-range, or the longer G36 and kind of accommodate what you want. So I really like the G36. I wish it was used more in the tech world, but unfortunately it is not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that normal stuff. And tell me what you want to see me do in the comments. I've got a couple more project builds in the background that I cannot wait to start making videos about. So until then, I'll see you guys later.